I'm Brian Muller. I'm an associate professor of environmental design. I teach city planning and city design classes at ENVD. I've been here about 20 years. I'm kind of a long timer in comparison to many. And I have a professional background in planning and policy development. I'm a gardener, so I'm looking forward to the spring. And I grow vegetables, but also ornamentals of various kinds. So I really enjoy that. I like to go out in the country and walk. You know, I enjoy the Boulder life. I enjoy the outdoors and everything that Boulder has to offer. The future of planning, that depends on our students and what they want to do and what they think is important and how their careers evolve. When I went into planning a while back, we were still building out the suburbs. And so for us, as a cohort of students, our focus was on creating open space, was on finding alternatives to the automobile, was on focusing on the inside of cities rather than building in the outside of cities. And those were kind of radical concepts when I came along, and we had a big influence on that generation of planning. And so I am really curious to know what the next generation of students and in our school and other schools like this want to focus on and want to think about. It really is interesting. I think that we're continuing to figure out how to live more dense urban lives in a civilized and graceful and culturally rich way. But we're also dealing with a lot of the impacts and negatives of dense urban life in the form of congestion, in the form of loss of green space within the cities, in the form of real problems with adaptation to climate change. So these are some of the issues that I'm talking about in this lecture, having to do with kind of the future of cities as we become increasingly more dense. How do we adapt to the issues of increasing density? My favorite thing about environmental design is just the diversity of the kinds of activities that students become involved in. I mean, my favorite thing is the students in environmental design and what they're thinking about and doing, and there's such an incredible breadth of interests and ideas, and interacting with students around those ideas is really interesting to me year after year. I really enjoy that. I don't even remember who the superheroes are. I don't know. I would, what's the ant?
Oh,
Ant-Man. Ant-Man. Maybe I would be Ant-Man and crawl around and look at the world from the bottom up. So, in a professional sense, because I was a professional planner and designer before I taught school, I am interested in how we make cities better, I'm interested in the richness of life in cities and how we accommodate a richness of activities and views and attitudes and desires, and put it all together in this built environment package that we call a city. So I'm interested in how our profession evolves and addresses the problems of the city. I love cities, so just from probably the thing that I love most about urban and regional planning is just getting to learn about cities and getting to travel and see cities, find out how people are living in them, find out kind of what works and what doesn't. That gives me a lot of pleasure. Well, I spent a lot of time in Naples, Italy. I was a visiting professor there a couple of times, and I brought students there several times. And I really enjoy Naples. It's one of the most dense cities in Europe, so it's a great place to think about how density works. And but it's also, has an incredible, rich overlaying of history. So it's a great city. I've spent a lot of time in Chinese cities, and Chinese cities are a bit harder, but there are some wonderful Chinese cities, like Kunming is a great city. So I love Kunming. What's the most challenging thing? Well, the most challenging thing is really how fast things change. And it seems that we've barely kind of kept up with the last iteration of change and figured out how to plan and design so that it works, so that cities are livable. And meanwhile, technology and the economy and patterns of immigration and all those things are swamping our efforts, and cities are moving in another direction, just as we've figured out the last generation. So I think the most difficult thing is just keeping up.